يقيم شعاري GatherVerse يقيم شعاري يقين شعاري إلي مقام يا ليل يفنى دافيرايخ
Hello and greetings. Welcome to day two, GatherVerse Middle East Tech for Humanity Summit. My name is Linky Tao, Communications Director for GatherVerse. Yesterday, we came off the heels of a strong day one, and I believe day two is only going to be lightning and more impactful. Now, from wherever you are watching us from, we greet you, we welcome you. For those streaming at GatherVerse.live, we greet you. For those streaming from our various social platforms, Karibuni Sana. That means welcome in Swahili. Now, if you told me 5 years ago, not even 5 years ago, that's too far. 4 years ago that I would be staring at my computer or I will be speaking in front of a global audience right in front of my computer. That would be a pipe or stream for me. Reason why? Because I didn't have the internet. I'm here in Nairobi, Kenya, and I believe some of you are watching from every part of the world, and perhaps you share the same struggle with me: lack of internet, lack of infrastructure, poor gear, and all. But here we are, so privileged at a different time that even me here in Nairobi, Kenya, have access to one of the most fastest and reliable internet. And there's still more than 2 billion people who are not connected. We are here for them. We're here to talk about their issues. They may not be here, but we know them. We know what they're going through. And that is why we're here. This is our 33rd GatherVerse Summit, and we're very, very happy and delighted to have you walk this journey with us. Thank you so much. We celebrate humanity, we honor human betterment, and to take it further, we go all the way to talk about education, accessibility, equality, community development, privacy and safety, ethics, and wellness, all under one banner called GatherVerse. Thank you so much to our founder, Christopher Lafayette, and the GatherVerse team for putting this together. We have a roster of amazing panelists and speakers who are going to share their expressions. I hope you will be here with us for the long run. And if not, even if you just join for 1 minute or a second or just 30 minutes, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. And right now, we're going to kick off with our first roundtable panel. And before that, I just want to remind you that we have more summits coming up. We have South America, GatherVerse Tech for Humanity. We have North America coming up. So if you haven't applied to speak, the applications are still open. Apply to speak. We have Men's Health Summit coming up. We have Food Summit coming up. Yes, when we're going to December, we're going to talk about food, but it's not what you think. And we're going to have Money coming up, Money Summit coming up. We have our burner superhero engine. Shout out to all superhero engines who are watching. We're going to have a She Summit next year, January. GatherVerse Annual Summit is also coming up next year, AI Summit, and much more. So stay tuned. And here we go. Let's kick it off with our first panel. Thank you. Hello, greetings, karibuni sana. That is welcome to our first panel. And with me, I have an incredible roster of women panelists, and we're going to talk about global leaders, global lens. My name is Lynn Guitar once again, and I want to ask my dear panelists to introduce themselves, to tell us who they are and why they're here. And I want you to be as brief as you can, right? Because I believe we have so much to talk about. It's going to be a deep one. And our dear panelists, our dear audience, wherever you are, please feel free to engage, ask questions, chime in. We are watching you. And yeah, panelists, shall we begin?
Yes.
All right, that's a yes. I'm gonna start with you. Who should I start with? Alison, I think I'm gonna start with you, and then we're gonna pass the baton and close off with Maria when it comes to the introductions. Alison, over to you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. It's going to be a really good conversation. I think I'm really excited. My name's Alison, and after an international career working in over 50 countries, I became a serial entrepreneur and have now founded an emerging VC fund focusing on UK and Europe. And I'm really, really excited here to be on the discussion tonight because there's such a big pull between, localization versus globalization and the movement of people and everything in between. So it's a really, really interesting hot topic at the minute, and it'll be great to hear everyone's perspectives. Really looking forward to it.
We welcome you once again. Let's talk about globalization, shall we? Christy Stroh, this is another time to be with you again. Please tell us who you are.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm Christy Straw from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm a nationally recognized leadership strategist and keynote speaker and founder of Lighthouse Leadership Consultants. I specialize in the authentic authority archetype and how you can show up authentically and be powerfully visible. I'm really looking forward to the conversation today, and I think we'll have a lot to add from a different lens. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we definitely welcome you once again. Let's be authentic. And Davona, welcome back.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Lynn. I am Devonna May. I'm the creator of It Girl GPT and Mogul Behavior. I am a lawyer turned global entrepreneur. I am now currently completing my self-initiated sabbatical in Southeast Asia, and my purpose is to help entrepreneurs discover their power through personal leadership and accountability, while also providing them tools and insights on my personal journey to help strengthen theirs. So thank you, ladies, for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Awesome. We're happy to have you as well. Maria, over to you.
Hi, hello, ladies. Thank you for having me again on your panels. I'm Maria Dervenko. I'm a fractional COO. I used to run a tech startup that went globally on 3 continents. And this spring, I decided to venture off solo. And now I'm just helping startups or scale-ups to create more structure, to scale, or to integrate, or to use AI tools. The reason why I'm here is, again, just to share my humble perspective on tech. Thank you.
Fantastic. We're very delighted to have you all. And let's just start with this one question. And I'm very curious. I want to hear from each and every one of you. From your experiences, there's something that stood out from each and every one of you. Each and every one of you has a global experience. And I'm just curious to learn more. How do we define leadership and influence in a digital age? What is influence to you, Alison, as you pass it on?
That's a great question. And, you start off with the hard ones, straight in there. What is influence? I think that in a global context, it means different things. And you have to be, culturally aware. And within different cultures, it does mean different things. Influence can be the power of a position that you've been given. It can be a position that you've earned. It can be a member of the community based on their expertise and their knowledge. But I think that what underlies all of it, no matter what position you hold or what you're doing, I think it comes down to, how authentic are you, and the respect when the way that you treat others. I think there is a difference between influence that's based on authenticity and respect, and influence that's based on power and dictatorialism and dictatorism. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, those are two very different concepts. And I think, again, some of that comes down to cultural acceptance and cultural norms. And I think that we, as, and I am based in Ireland, we sometimes become and think that, the European way or the Western way is the cultural norm, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's not.
Mhm.
That's a very colonial perspective, and we're only a small subset of the entire population of the
Mhm.
world. And I think that, you know, there is space for
Yeah.
everyone's culture. There's space to be authentic and have respect. So no matter where you go in the world, it's about understanding their cultures,
Yeah.
understanding how things work, the
Mhm.
intricacies, and having respect for everyone.
Wow, that is very insightful to start us off. Christy, what is your view on leadership and influence? Your mic, please.
I have a pretty defined view on leadership and influence, obviously, given what I do. And so I would say this: yes, respect is obviously important, respecting cultural differences and asking to be aware of those that we're not even aware of is always a great start. But influence really isn't much more than fandom if there isn't an associated impact that is meaningful and matters to a specific group and there's an outcome attached. I am really in the space of helping guide people toward how do we use our influence that we already have and how do we use that to impact change. And so
Mhm.
for me, I look at the global responsibility of always keeping in mind, number one, what's the best right next step, right? And usually the best right next step isn't associated with profit. It's not associated with an ROI. It's associated with how we can help have a greater impact on whatever our cause happens to be. And so I tend to funnel most things through that lens when I'm thinking about the influence that I can have, because I'm just so far past the point of wanting to be an influencer. And I'm more at the place of wanting to create a movement of influence.
Mm, mm. Impact that stood out for me. Davona, we're in an influence economy. What is your influence? What is leadership to you?
Yes, well, as someone who has, within the past 2 or 3 months, lived and immersed myself in foreign cultures, I believe that leadership is always about getting into the fields, getting into the trenches, and going where the people are, but using technology, the long arm of technology, to allow you to quickly learn from other people's experiences before you actually arrive. So, using social media and AI and other apps to research and explore and connect before your feet ever touch that land. I think that's the cornerstone of modern digital leadership. I think we lost Lynn there.
Yes, I do believe so.
We've gained another member though.
Listen,
Yes, we
though,
did. Hello, can you
Dave,
guys hear me? There we
we
go.
can hear you, Russell.
Hi
Devana,
there.
that was an awesome answer, though, I will have to say. So, Maria, what say you? Because I think Devana really nailed it as far as her answer and
Yes,
the
yes.
responsibility.
So I have a similar perspective on leadership, to be honest, because I think we're always like chasing the newest tool, the new things that appear every day. If we only talk about AI, so for me it's like, because I work a lot with teams, companies, startups, and so on. So it's not about what's the best or the newest platform or AI out there. It's what fits in with your company's reality. What is your basic need? So because they advertise all of this like, oh, it will simplify your work, it will simplify your life, but does it really? I mean, like, so again, for me, leadership, it's basic, like making technology work for people and not the other way around. I think I said this like a lot of times, and making sure not to overwhelm your team and the company and also the people around you. So
So
yeah.
Lynn will be coming back very shortly. So I've been substituted in. That's why I was like thrown on the stage. I was not even prepared at all. Lucky enough, Christy saved me. She's like, "So guys, let's continue." So thank you very much, Christy. You saved me even, which is fantastic.
My pleasure.
But yeah, so
Just coming for your role. Sorry.
So by the way, if you're wondering who I am, my name's Russell, by the way. I am Director of Partnerships at GatherVerse. So we're going to continue this lovely conversation. I have no control over this deck, so I'm hoping the team behind the scenes can literally switch the deck to the next question if possible. There we go. So the next question coming up is, what values should guide leadership at the intersection of humanity and technology? So Maria, we just heard from yourself. So we're going to go to Davana, and then we'll go to Alison after that as well.
I love this question because let me just give it like this. The values that guide leadership: respect, dignity, humility, and deference. Deference is the bottom line. A lot of times when we're traveling into other people's cultures and their countries, we tend to come as we are, but I have learned to live like a local. You have to respect the land in which you are inhabiting and to take a genuine interest in the people, make them feel seen and respected, even if it's uncomfortable for you and even if it's not reciprocated. I think that there's a baseline in our character that has to be developed that doesn't deviate when circumstances change or when comfort zones change, but that's also flexible enough to expand in spite of those things. And I think this is the foundation of the mindset that's needed in order to intersect in between humanity and technology. I'll pass that along.
I mean, Davana, quickly before you pass that along, would you also say potentially that potentially even respect could be an option, or maybe even consistency? I mean, there's a lot of characteristics which leaderships have, and in general, right, so to speak, very successful ones, of course. So do you think also they come into play with the intersection of humanity and technology?
Absolutely, because respect is the space where you are entering into someone's home, entering into their culture, and you come there with a, how do you say, a humility.
Yeah.
Respect is humility. Respect is coming into someone's space and saying, I didn't create this, I didn't cultivate this, but I understand it, I respect it, and I want to learn more about it. And how can I take what I have, who I am, and integrate my abilities and my heart, my desires into what your needs are? How can we connect on that level? So, of course, respect is definitely the baseline. Respect, dignity, humility, and deference. Yes.
And what about your thoughts, Alison? What are your thoughts on all this conversation so far?
Yeah, I mean, Devani's made some great points, and I just want to build on that because she's really spot on. But I think when you think about the intersection between humanity and technology, I think we're at a pivotal moment where we have, the Gen Alpha, Gen Z are so normalized with some of the communication and the digital and being digital that it really is concerning to how that's going to impact humanity. And I think that the leaders of these companies have a responsibility to think about this. And is it just evolution? And I have this inner turmoil and inner conflict as to, is it okay? Is this evolution of humanity? As 2 out of 5 Gen Alphas talk to chatbots rather to discuss their problems and things online rather than discuss them with humans. To me as a parent, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's awful,
Right.
and I'm a bit concerned. But then another part of me, the tech head, is kind of like, oh, that's super cool. The opportunity here is really, really good. And so I think that what is leadership is to do it right and to do it in the right way, which is not necessarily driving profits. And I think this driving for shareholder profits is very, very problematic when you're talking about technology and humanity and the merging of the two. I think we need to be more conscious about it and take the ownership. There was when Grok released its little chatbots that were the little animated characters, and you had the angry red panda. That's not cool. And I think that the majority of people would think that the fact that there wasn't really any age limit blockers on that. You just had to pay a fee and you could access a little red panda that's an animated character that's swearing and calling you names, and it can see you through the camera and can say, oh, Alison, you're looking really old today, or you look fat, and it's so it's that ownership of humanity with technology and the responsibility that we have as leaders, as technology leaders, to really do the right thing and not be driven by profits, but still, innovate. And some of these solutions, and I'll hand over in 1 second, but if you think about, chatbots and, avatars, digital avatars for the elderly as a companion.
Yeah.
There may be a case there, where they can have a conversation with someone who, looks the same as them. They can build it, and it could be done in a smart way, but it's just, are we there yet now? No. Could we get there? Yes. But how do we get there is where the leadership bit comes in. And that goes back to Devani's points about, what values should be valued when you're making that bridge.
No, I mean, I read a study very recently as well. It's very along the lines of AI companions. And in the study that it shows about how it changed your brain cells, right? Interacting with AI. And I think they call it AI cognitive, if I remember correctly, where, it's actually I can't remember the exact terms of it, but there's two sides of it. But I know it's causing a lot of issues in both, doesn't matter how old you are or who you are, it's across the board causing the same issues. And when you think about that in particular, and it is changing your brainwaves, it's like what is this going to do within the next year, 2, 3? I mean, not alone long term, in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about leadership, is it our there's two sides of this. Is it A, the tech company itself, their responsibility, or is it B, potentially the user's responsibility to this too? So you got kind of both things there.
Yeah. I think there's just, sorry, to reinforce your point. I can't remember his name, but the gentleman that built Instagram, when they did the initial testing, they removed all the outliers. All the people that would sit on Instagram and scroll and scroll and scroll for hours and hours and hours. And they were like, oh, but they're just the outliers. And they removed them. And he did an interview a couple of years ago. And he said that was his single biggest regret when building that, was to remove those outliers, because they had no idea it would become this, addictive beast that it is today. But if they had even just kept them in the data set, it may have been different. So I think that's really interesting point.
No, thank you for sharing, Alison. I really appreciate that, and I completely agree with you on a lot of your points there. So, and the old TikTok brain as well. So, but Anne, please, thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are, and then also we'll also send the question your way as well, Anne. So, welcome.
Thanks. So hi everyone, I'm Anne. I'm based out of Singapore. I run a leadership and coach training institution. So I guess I came from the tech sector for 20 years. And of course, as tech companies, we only know as much as what's beyond our nose, right? In terms of what would happen, like Alison says about Instagram, we can try to predict the trends, but sometimes it's a beast on its own. So I think to kind of say whose responsibility it is, I think it's joint. I love it when we do things like what we call PPP, which is public, which is government, private, which are like companies, as well as the public, the community, to come in and say, how do we shape this together? I think that's the best way forward. Of course, it's going to be slower than at the private company where they launch tech products really fast. but I think it does help us to save humanity some mistakes, and also having a whole lot more transparency in building the process together. So I just hope that's my dream. If you would, help.
Well, thank you for joining us, Faye. And I'm gonna bring it Christy in. So Christy, since you saved me earlier, which I really appreciate, by the way, what are your thoughts as well? I want to get your input on this too, because I know you have a lot of perspective. So please share.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So listen, when I'm thinking anytime about the intersection of humanity and technology, honestly, immediately what my mind goes to is the bias of who is building and inputting the technology. And so I think there's a whole lot of responsibility that is yet to be claimed. I think there's a whole lot of accountability that is yet to be taken in regard to the bias in these AI systems. We've seen the statistics already about hiring biases and job biases and mistakes. And so a lot of the training that I go around the world to do is all about beyond the bias training. Because if we're biased towards something, whether it's towards somebody who's wired like us or the opposite, then naturally anything we build inside of our AI system is going to reflect that bias. And so I often remind people, especially leaders, when I'm consulting at that tech or user experience level, have you checked this for your own bias? And when they say yes, because they all say yes, I'll say, well, who did you have check it? Well, inevitably, it's the most ridiculous list of people that really don't have the psychological safety to say, actually, no, right? And so then we go down that construct of who is your advisory board when you're talking about introducing a new product in? Do we have diverse viewpoints, diverse perspectives, diverse nationalities, diverse cultures? And if not, why not? And how is everybody associated with this next product an additive to what we're building to keep bias out versus the other way around? That's always where I start.
No, I think that's important. And, when you're looking for bias, obviously you always have to have, people that's not yourself, basically, but also people that do have the qualifications, so to speak, in how you're saying, right? And even if they don't necessarily have the qualifications, at least you have someone else's perspective that looks at that. It's kind of like when you look at culture, right? And you need someone really from that culture, right, in order to make sure it's aligned with that culture. If you don't know that culture yourself, then you have to make sure that you have the correct culture in with that, along with the people that actually genuinely live there. So I completely agree with what you're saying when it comes to that side of things. And now I've got access to the questions, I can finally switch through. So the next question is, what I don't know if you guys if you've done this, so please do let me know if you have, but what global responsibilities do leaders hold for younger generations yet to come? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in Maria on this, and then we'll go to Devana after. So Maria, what are your thoughts on this question in particular?
So on this topic, if I may share like a local example. So just in a couple of weeks from now, we will be holding here in Romania the first like youth summit, and we'll have like, we'll have, and listen to this, children from the age of 10 to the age of 22 on the stage speaking to us and telling us how they want the world that they are receiving to be. And we're really excited. We're a bunch of ladies, a non-profit, that are putting together this. And I think it speaks to your question. What can we do? We can take action, just doing this. We're hoping this will be a good event, attended by a couple of hundreds of children and important stakeholders around the country, like CEOs and different people from the public. But that's the main thing. We want to give them a voice, and this is how we can do it, by letting them tell us what they're expecting and
This
how they see the world now.
this is such a great idea and concept of what you're doing, because the thing is, one of the biggest things in holding younger generations yet to come, or at least helping them, like what is our responsibility in that? Well, so to speak, really is collaboration and community, right? They're two fundamentals, and it doesn't matter what you're doing or who you are. Bottom line is those two really do help when it comes to this. So the fact that you're doing that, Maria, I think that's fantastic. I think all about collaboration, all about community, all about bringing younger generations into this, education, etc. All of those are extremely important, and obviously everything that GatherVerse stands for too. But I think it's incredible what you're doing. So thank you for sharing that, Maria. And Devonna, what are your thoughts?
Yes, Maria, I just want to thank you for that. That is a fantastic initiative, and I wish I had something like that when I was a youth. So thank you for that, for what you're doing there. And I agree, we do owe our youth a platform. I think we owe them a pathway, but one that's built with knowledge and historical accuracy. We need to tell them the truth about the realities of what it is to be a leader, what it is to live on this earth and to cultivate a new energy in a new space, what it is to be a humanitarian, the ugly sides of it, because it's not aesthetic, it's not glamorous. This is the work that is so how do you say it is, there's no applause for it. There's not until the work is done, until you're in the grave, there's no one sitting here applauding for you. So we have to instill in our youth a sense of guts. We have to instill in them integrity. We have to set an example, and we cannot dictate how they will take this responsibility and run with it, but we can at least set a standard. We can set a platform. We can give them the confidence and the empowerment. We can clear the brush, make it easier for them, give them more visibility to see ahead of themselves, and open doors, prepare tables and seats so that they can continue the journey. Again, we cannot dictate how they will, but we can set a standard and an example of how they should.
The children obviously are so important in our future, and I completely agree with you, Devon. And thank you for sharing that, because when you think about also all this technology out now and all the emerging technology which kids have to deal with these days. I mean, back in my days, make myself feel like I'm agent, but back in my days, back in like the 90s, boy, so to speak, we didn't have to deal with that, right? We just only had the TV, let alone having to deal with phones and AI and tablets and then VR glasses and AR glasses. So it's just crazy. And I want to bring in this conversation as well, because as a technologist yourself, Anne, and really into technology, that I want to kind of with a different angle this. What global responsibility do you think leaders should hold from like a technology standpoint for the younger generations yet to come? What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, that's a huge responsibility, global responsibility. I think often than not, as Chrissy was saying, that not many people even talk about taking out the responsibility or being made accountable. So I think it's heavy. But I would say that there's this slogan or proverb that we say in Asia: we plant the trees for the future generation so that they may have shade to lie in the
okay.
So it's the mentality that we need to pave the way forward for the future generation, and if we don't plant the trees, then whoever will, and then the next generation happens. So perhaps this analogy can work for technology, and whoever's creating the technology, that we must remember we need to create the future for our youth. And what kind of future will we create? And of course, I really love what Maria shared about having a platform for the young voices to share what is their view of the world they want to live in the future. And perhaps you could co-create that. And if we start to invite conversation, because even we talk about by 2030, 70% of our workforce will be millennials and Gen Z. They must have a voice. And the way they look at the world is so different from how we did. Like you talk about your childhood.
That is true.
So they are a lot more purpose-driven, a lot more about why we do things, and they want to avoid all the mistakes that we made. So perhaps that responsibility could be held jointly, but we need all hands on deck to really make this work. And perhaps not for the world yet, but maybe we start where we are in our little communities, and take that forward. And I think if we start everywhere, like all of us are all over the world, if we start our little communities, we can make that effort, and then we hold hands, across the globe.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, Anne, and thank you so much. And I think also, by the way, we have lots of comments coming in. I mean, Captain Walker, she's saying she's loving this entire discussion. We've got Zone Zero saying, "Long live the '80s, Russell. You're not ancient." Thank you, Zone Zero. And Salvation saying it's absolutely amazing panel. So a lot of people are loving this discussion right now. So let's go on to the next question, which is, how can leaders use storytelling to connect global policies with human lives? This is a very interesting topic. And Alison, I can see you nodding head. So why not have a crack at this?
Yeah, I think that it's essential. I think that I sat in a panel with the on the Irish deployment of SDGs and how to get, they have a mandate for the Paris Agreement and the targets for the UN SDGs, which we're missing significantly, by the way. But how to bring small and medium-sized businesses on board and have a greater impact. And the biggest thing, that came up when we were conducting all the interviews and discussions and the data finding was people just didn't understand. And it's when you release a government paper or a piece of regulation, it's in a certain format. It's a very legal format. It doesn't roll off the tongue. It's using big words. And the reality is not everyone can understand it. And it's probably, 50 to 100 pages long. And so, to be honest, everyone's using AI to send a summary anyway. So so that's where we need to be translators. And I think of it as that it's you're taking the concept or the idea or the vision and you're translating it into a cultural fit in storytelling. And I love the way that Anne used her example of a saying from Asia, because that's exactly what we should be doing. Little analogies, examples from other places around the world where it's worked, or they've come up with a different idea. Monkey see, monkey do. If I can see someone else that's done it, I'm going to give it a shot. It's not impossible. In my house, there's no such word as impossible, because you just haven't found a way to do it yet. And it's just, how do you it's a translator. And I think that storytelling is something that is innate to humanity. And it is something that makes us human. And from the age of time, we tell stories. We pass stories down through generations. It's a tried and tested format. And we trust the storytellers. And so it's a no-brainer. That is how we can communicate and how we can take these sometimes complex problems, government policies, all the madness, and really communicate it to the individual. And the individuals all have different levels, but they all can understand a story.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the creativity, you think about art, you think about, just that all goes into storytelling too. And, one thing that we all do have is, even in the age of AI, so to speak, is one thing we still have is creativity. So when it comes to storytelling, I completely agree with you a lot on that. So, yeah. And also, by the way, we've got some more comments coming in. I just want to I like reading some of the couple of comments because it's very interesting to see what people are saying. And Ariesta, he said, "Thank you for sharing your thoughts about the future of the next generations. Love this." And Darth Vibe actually put in a very interesting question, which actually I'm going to put to you, panelists, because it's a very kind of new thing that's just literally come out. And this is maybe like a little bit of a side question, but it's still on topic. What are your thoughts on AI trust and Sora 2 for younger generations? So, Christy, do you want to have a crack at this? And if you've seen the latest Sora 2 and everything? I don't know if you have or not, but
I really have not. But I will tell you that there's a massive gap in trust, and that spans every single culture, and that spans every single bit of digital technology and the human experience. And so I spend a lot of time consulting with leaders at every level, from nonprofit to founder to enterprise wide. What is that trust gap? What is it costing you? And how can we use AI in a way that enhances and emboldens trust in an organization versus something that creates more questions and disconnect, which is what a lot of people are experiencing. And so I often consult and advise at a board level, and really that conversation looks like, what have you done to make space for people's feelings about any AI integration in their work? What have you done to make space for the grief that often accompanies transformation and change? What have you done to provide people the opportunity to share their concerns prior to a rollout? And if we slow down and do those things, that closes our trust gap, which automatically makes your chance of success for a transformation initiative 72 or 74% higher based on the last McKinsey study. And so a lot of what I do is around the trust gap in organizations and how to close that, and what the responsibility is for us as executive leaders to walk that walk and talk the talk.
No, and I do agree with you on a lot of those points. And I mean, you know, what we work on at Just Verify, which is obviously my company and I'm a co-founder of, you know, we literally specifically focus on verification and trust. You know, we make sure that we focus on AI, you know, earning your trust rather than, you know, blindly being given. And also, you know, what is the way in which you can, you know, verify for AI to earn your trust, so to speak. So,
Yes.
you know, it is that walk in, you know, that balance. And obviously, you know, at the end of the day, every single individual has their own way in which they have interactions with AI and relationships with AI. So the trust is a very nuanced discussion, so to speak.
Well, because think about it. Like, here's truly an example. If you already don't trust a leader that you work with or a coworker,
True.
and they come to the meeting with a solution or an idea, and you can clearly tell they've used AI to generate their idea, I hope the first thought of everybody watching this out in the audience is, ooh, I don't know. Like, if I'm already not down with the way that person is wired and shows up in general, how do I know that I really trust what we are being presented, although it looks put together and well thought out? This is the part that leadership hasn't stopped to think about, that if your leadership brand is not on point and people already have a trust gap, it doesn't matter how nice and shiny you package it with AI. It's still biased inherently because you created it and there's a missing trust there. So that's always a conversation that leads to a lot of discomfort, but it's the conversation that needs to be had. And until that's fixed, you know, we're just spinning our wheels.
I'd love to add to that if
Sure,
possible.
Devona.
So, and I love this question because it actually made me think, and I'm sitting here like, you know what, trust is a human responsibility still, and it is an arduous one, but it should not be given to AI. And I think that's why we go out into the world as humanitarians, as sojourners, as pioneers. We go into the real world to build real connections with people, because that is the only way to actually represent the different cultural perspectives, religion, our societals. Like, we have to be the human representation, and trust is the only way to acquire trust is to do it human to human. So when I was in South Korea, the way that I established trust with my clients was sitting over a home cooked meal cooked by their mother, and we sat and we talked about AI, and we talked about culture and politics. And when I was in Thailand, we would meet in local shops, and we'd have a beer, and we talk about AI and technology, and we build cultural bonds and bridges that way. And in Malaysia, we would people from all different nations and cultures and religions. We would meet in hostels and apartments, and we'd sit at a table, and it'd be really hot, and the mosquitoes are biting you, but you're sitting there and you're exchanging the ideas, and we're learning that we are all seeking the same rewards, and we are all afraid of the same consequences. So trust is a human responsibility, and it should not be given to AI.
I agree. And when you think about trustworthy AI, right? Like something that I've always thought about, even when I started Just Verify, which was, what is trustworthy AI? How is it trustworthy? And the bottom line is that it's the behavior and the performance of the models themselves. How does it behave? What does it say? What does it do? How does it act? Performance wise, is it consistent? Is it reliable? Can I still go to it and it's going to be safe to use? Or is it going to put me in harm's way and manipulate my mind and adapt my mind, etc.? So this is how I think about trustworthy AI. And I think those are the two bottom lines when it comes to AI. And I really think that when it comes to verification, when it comes to the benchmarks and the standards that need to be set, and I don't just mean the ones that are currently out there. Of course, we have ethical AI and ethics and standards and benchmarks. That's fine. But we still need new forms of benchmarks and standards to be put in place in order to have trustworthy AI. And trustworthy AI is also a mixture of all these components coming together, from ethics to bias to culture, etc. Because here's another thing too. Trust means different in different cultures. That's the other thing as well that you have to think about as well. So you've got to marinate a lot of stuff there, but the point is it has to earn your trust and not be blindly given. So on that note, we'll move to the next question, because I don't want to go on that question too long. So the next question is, what role do empathy and humility play in leadership decision making? So I want to bring in Maria onto this question, and then we'll head over to Anne after. So Maria, please share your thoughts.
So short answer will be a crucial role. Empathy is like what shows that what's the human impact of decision. And again, leaders need to have humility in order to listen to others, listen to their teams, and learn from them. Because if you're not in a collaborative workplace, or you don't listen to the people around us, this comes back to what all the other ladies before me said, being biased, not being inclusive, boards all over are just male dominated. So if you don't have all of this, you're not able to make right decision, or a correct decision that impacts and influence everybody. You will make just potentially a wrong decision that it won't go very, very good for your company or for your team.
Do you think there's other things that might come into play, like when it comes to decision making, like strategies, or maybe like the data that you get, or stuff like that? Or I'm just curious, just to kind of like broaden the question a little bit, like what other things do you think would come into the decision making side of things?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, you need to think about the strategy and the way or where your company goes. But again, this needs to be like collaborative. If
Agreed.
you make the decision on your own, and again, this comes also to AI. We now have about 5 or 6 big language models, which all the AI are based on.
Mm-hmm.
So if we only have that small amount, it comes to, are we trusting that? Is it enough? Are we sure it's not biased? Are we sure it has all the elements of, like, as you guys said, culture, not being biased, and so on? So
No, I agree. And also when you're talking about models, there's like 1.8 million models out there that we know of, by the way, when it comes to AI. So there could be tens of millions of models out there when it comes to the AI side of things. So who knows what AI is out there? And even we do have the main ones, of course, and they're wrapped with different platforms around them, or even pre-trained, as in it's been trained slightly into make into something slightly different. But generally there's the fact that we have just 1.8 million models that we just know of. I mean, that's just crazy in itself. So when it comes to decision making, it makes it even more harder, because it's like, okay, am I using the best models currently out there? And even if they are the best models, are they the right models, right? As in, like, are they ethical? Are they safe, etc.? So Anne, what are your thoughts on this? Please do share your side of things
Oh,
too.
I love this question that you asked, because the first thought about empathy and humility is that these are soft skills for leadership. But yet, when I look at it, like, empathy is a totally human thing, as in, like, we feel emotion, but AI doesn't. AI doesn't
Mhm.
grieve. AI doesn't hope. AI doesn't, feel all the senses of the empathy. So therefore, the responsibility is on the human to empathize about the human condition and what humanity needs, and that is a heavy responsibility which AI doesn't. We can still teach AI to demonstrate empathy by saying, "Oh, I hear you, I see you," but these are all trained, but they don't feel. And the other part about humility is that, again, that's when AI is better than humans, because humans have got egos, and sometimes we don't admit we're wrong. Because we want to save our face, we want to look good, we all kinds of emotions. But when AI is wrong, they self-correct, and if we've got the algorithm and the codes and models right, they will auto-correct with no issue. So perhaps this is where, as leaders, we need to learn from AI too, on how we could also self-correct more frequently with less pain and ego. So kind of at the end of the day, I think that the responsibility still rests on us, because it's about how we process, whether it's information or feelings. And I know that emotion has been a part in AI that we had slightly more difficulties and challenges in working through as models. But who knows, one day when we get there and AI does feel empathy, then humans, you're kind of in the back seat.
No, I agree. And honestly, when you think of empathy, it's such a such a crucial human thing to do, and then putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And I think everybody needs to do that. But here's the other thing too, as well. I think sometimes people mix sympathy and empathy up. Sometimes people might think, well, empathy is sympathy. No, there's a slight difference. Empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Sympathy is feeling sorry for that person, right? As in actually having human emotions for that individual. Go ahead, Devon. I saw you on mute there, so go on.
Yeah, and please pardon me if I ramble a little bit, but this is bringing a lot of information into my head.
Well,
So
Devon, we've only got literally 60 seconds, so you're gonna
I'm
have to be
going.
fast.
Dropping the ego in the convenience of familiarity. What I want to say is that leadership is truly, it's not a glamorous job. These people who are going out in the world and making it a better place, who are pioneering, they are not rich. They don't have large networks. They don't have lots of resources. A lot of the times, these are just people with a heart and a purpose, and they need to be pulled up as well. They are out here maybe looking imperfect, maybe looking disheveled, not, and they're being judged by their appearance. But I want to remind everyone that we are upholding the global nation, the weight of our global nation. And so we need to support and encourage our humanitarians. They are the core of our operating system. So when it comes to the daily realities of leadership, it's just not a glamorous job. It's not easy, and we need to have more empathy and support for the people who are walking and pioneering. So I just wanted to leave us with that.
And Devon, on that note, we have to end this roundtable discussion. Thank you so much, all of you, each and every one of you, for joining here. Apologies also for the disconnection and the technical difficulties that Lynn had, but obviously I managed to jump in, and Christy saved the day as well. So I want to thank you, all the panelists on here. Make sure you go and follow them, connect with them on LinkedIn, reach out to them, and it's been a fantastic roundtable discussion. And up next, we have a couple of videos, and then we're also going to be having another roundtable discussion. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere, and I'll see you very shortly. Bye.
Bye.
I am Charlotte Kemp. I am a futurist, professional speaker, a writer, a coach. I dabble in various creative arts, including crochet. I think of myself not in terms of the functions that I do, but rather as a professional creative, a person who uses different creative experiences to feed into the work that I do on a day-by-day basis. I'm also a science fiction fan, and one of my favorite quotes comes from I, Robot, a movie featuring Will Smith and based loosely on Isaac Asimov's series of books from Foundation and Robots. In this particular interaction, the character played by Will Smith, a detective, is interrogating a robot called Sunny. And the detective says, human beings have dreams, even dogs have dreams, but not you. You are a machine, an imitation of life. Can a robot write a symphony? Can a robot turn a canvas into a beautiful masterpiece? And Sunny's response is, can you? And that, I think, is the essence of the entire conversation about technology and humanity, is that technology allows us humans to be more creative, to be more innovative, to experience more incredible things. But do we take that opportunity or not? When technology experts came up with the term artificial intelligence, they did humanity a disservice, because we began to fear and experience anxiety about an artificial intelligence that could do something to us. If we had only named it augmented intelligence or intelligence amplified, then we would have more easily embraced the opportunity to be creative individuals because of the access we have because of AI. Just imagine what is possible for a person who actively pursues their creative interests, instead of just sticking to one particular niche where their expertise is. Because of the technology we have these days, we can explore and experience other creative, innovative experiences. We can expand, amplify our creativity. We can learn creativity principles and innovation principles that we can apply to other parts of our work. The opportunities are endless. Instead, humans do what humans have always done. Whenever we find a technology that allows us to be more productive, that allows us to save time, to be more efficient, instead of appreciating that efficiency and freeing up time for other pursuits, we just pack that extra time with more of the same. Our KPIs go higher and higher. The sales target figures get higher and higher. What we can achieve in a day, how much profit we can squeeze out of a single unit in a business increases constantly, endlessly, trying to squeeze more value out of every single unit. It was always like this. When we got computers, when we got software programs, when we got devices in our pockets that allowed us to do more, we just packed more into it. That may be the nature of humanity, or it may be a symptom of capitalism. And perhaps we want to explore what it really means to be human. Why don't we become more efficient and effective because of our technology, and then use that extra time to slow down, to be more creative, to explore what it means to be a human being, to have those conversations, to take the time to learn to paint or to do calligraphy, or to stare out at nature, or to enjoy humanity passing us by. We have the opportunity, because of the technology that we already have, to live an incredibly rich life. We have all the resources we need on this planet to do that. But instead, what we're trying to do is feed the machine. move faster, be more effective, more productive, more profitable. And I think that is a failing not of technology, but of human imagination.
Hello everyone! It's such a joy to be here with you at GatherVerse Middle East, Tech for Humanity. We all live in a time where AI can write poetry, compose music, even mimic a human voice. It's incredible. But let me ask you this. Can AI actually help us to connect as people, not just data points? Because here's the truth. Technology without connection is just noise. And humanity at its core has always been about connection. Hi, my name is Kelly, and I co-founded Speaker Society with a simple belief that every voice deserves a stage, and community is the heartbeat of influence. What started out as a small circle of speakers has grown into a global community. People from all walks of life coming together because they want the same thing, to find their voice, to share their story, and to feel less alone in this journey. But we quickly hit a challenge. How do you support so many voices, each with their own story, without losing the human touch? That's when AI surprised me. Not as a replacement, but as a bridge. At Speaker Society, we started using AI to help speakers to get unstuck, to spark story ideas, to organize their talks, to give them feedback so they could practice with it. For someone just starting, it might offer a few ways to tell a story, say about resilience. For a professional, it might help reshape the same talk for a different industry. But here's what I've learned. The value isn't in the AI itself. It's actually what it frees up. It clears away noise so that speakers can show up more fully as themselves. And when those drafts and ideas are brought into community, at our playground events, our accelerator program, or virtual stages, like this one, that's when the real magic happens. Because people don't connect with perfection, they connect with humanity. Now, let's talk about networking. We all know the old way. You show up at an event, you exchange business cards, maybe you connect on LinkedIn, and then nothing really happens. But the kind of networking we've seen inside Speaker Society, it feels different. It's not so much about collecting contacts. It's more about finding people you actually click with, the ones who get what you're about, who share your energy and who make you feel like, yes, I found my people. That's when networking stops becoming a transaction and starts feeling like community. And that's why this matters for tech, for humanity. Look, AI can amplify voices, but not replace them. It helps people, especially those who have never felt heard, to step up and share with clarity. AI can also accelerate networking. It creates connections that are not just meaningful, not surface level. AI can build belonging. It helps us to scale intimacy so even in a crowd, people can feel seen. Well, let me share a story. At a recent speakers playground, someone walked in absolutely terrified of speaking. They drafted their talk with AI but whispered to me, I don't know if I can do this, Kelly. But when they finally stepped up, the community leaned in, encouraged them, and something shifted. AI gave them structure in their speech, but the community is the one that gave them courage, and the networking after gave them opportunity. Together, Those three, AI, community, and networking, created transformation. And that's the vision I want to leave you today. As we build smarter cities, faster networks, more advanced AI systems, let's also build smarter communities. Communities where technology doesn't feel isolated, but it connects. Where networking isn't transactional, but transformational. At Speaker Society, our belief is simple. When voices connect, networks strengthen. And when networks strengthen, humanity thrives. So, here's my invitation to you. Don't just use AI to get ahead. Use it to bring people together. Because the future isn't artificial intelligence. The future is amplified humanity. And if any of this resonates with you, or even if it doesn't, I'd love to hear your perspective. Connect with me here, and let's continue the conversation. Let's build something meaningful together.
Hello and welcome to day 2 of the GatherVerse Middle East Tech for Humanity Summit. My name is Russell. I'm the Director of Partnerships at GatherVerse. And what an amazing 2 days it's been so far. Day 1, we had, I think it was over like 5-6 roundtables, something like that. And day 2 has been amazing as well. But today, or should I say this roundtable, anyway, at least, we have 3 amazing guests with us, and we're going to be talking about in this roundtable discussion, building responsibly, empathy, mindfulness, and leading a better human-centered innovation. So what we're going to do, panelists, is we're going to do a 30-second or 60 seconds introduction from each of you. And then from that, we'll then go straight into the questions. So we'll start with Stefania, then we'll go to you, Professor, and then Sebastian. So please, kick us off, Stefania.
Thank you so much, Russell, for welcoming. I'm super delighted to be here again in GatherVerse. So as you well said, my name is Stefania Brunori. I work in the intersection between personal branding, leadership, and purpose, all embedded into the current world, which is technology-driven, and aligning forces for a more human leadership at the end of the day.
Stefania, it's a pleasure to have you with us again, and thank you for joining us once again as well. Professor, this must be our 4th or 5th time now, so please introduce yourself to people who don't know who you are.
Thank you for inviting me here. I'm sure I'm audible this time perfectly. So first of all, this is a happy puja to all of you. This is from India, from Kolkata, and we're celebrating Durga Puja. Today, I'm sure you all have heard. My name is Dhruva Shishor. Currently,
we're having audio issues again, Professor. I'm not sure what's going on there. So last but not least, Sebastian, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Sebastian Koba. I'm the founder of Beyond Comms. I'm a communications consultant, an artist, a classically trained singer, and theater director. So my work sits at the intersection of arts and business and looking at how artistic crafts and artistic sensibilities can create more human-centered businesses and communications. And I think of my practice as a way of kind of a laboratory practice, working with clients and helping them develop campaigns and communications that highlights how they can best connect with the different audiences that they hold and all of their different stakeholders.
Thank you for joining us, Sebastian. And if you could just mute your microphones, that'd be great. Thank you. I just hear the background bit, Sebastian, but no problem. Anyway, so here we go. So question 1. So we're going to start with the first question. And in this question, it says, what does responsible innovation look like when humanity is at the center? So Stefania, we'll start with you, and then Professor will come to you after. And also, Professor, if you can just mute your microphone, we'll get you to introduce yourself in just a second.
Thank you, Russell. So how would the responsible innovation look like when the humanity is at the center?
Yeah.
I think the first thing that we can ask is, instead of can we do it, which is what we've been asking till now, the question is if we should do it and for whom. So that means being responsible from the beginning. So it's not a question if we can, because of the technology being available or having the infrastructure, having the talent or having the tools, but really considering pre-launching that innovation, if we should, what is the impact that is going to have in humanity? And we are in a moment where the end consumer really values those companies, those products, those services that are aligned with their values. The new generations are really committed with a more responsible practice in different angles, and that is going to happen as well with the technology. So the primary metric of success in that way of thinking should be more the human well-being, the human impact that is going to have that innovation, rather than only what is going to be the shareholder value and what is going to be the profit. I'm not saying that it has to be only based on humanity, but for sure, a brand and the leaders that are on those brands cannot be defined by economic success anymore. Yes, as well with the impact and the ethics of what is going to be launched.
No, I mean, I completely agree. And I think if humanity's at the center, I think human values are going to be prioritized, right? I think AI will align with human values. Well, that's hopefully, of course, but we don't know what's going to go in the future. But I think, if human values are at the center of all this and making sure that, it's ethical, making sure that it's safe, making sure it's responsible, making sure it's trustworthy, all these, terms that we use within the AI space, if we can make sure that everything is aligned with that and at the center, having the humans at the center of this, then fingers crossed, so to speak, the AGI and ASI would be great for us, right? So that's just kind of like my, I guess, personal opinion to add on top of yours, Stefania. And Professor, please could you introduce yourself, and we'll see if your audio has been fixed now. So please do introduce yourself.
Okay, so I think now I am audible. Russell, can you hear me now?
Yes, there's a little bit of like lag there, but please try and introduce yourself.
Okay. So first of all, happy Puja to you all. Today actually I'm from India, from Kolkata, and we are celebrating Durga Puja. I'm sure you all have heard. So all of you, your family, the Puja wishes from my end. I'm Dhrubashi Sarkar, currently associated with NSHM Knowledge Campus as a professor. For the past 28 years, I'm in teaching, research, and academic leadership. My aim, my motivation is to make the future generation industry ready. So now, coming to your point, that the first point that you have raised. So responsible innovation is not merely about.
You're still having technical difficulties, Professor. I'm not sure what's going on with your audio. It seems to be jumping in and out. I don't know if there's some sort of connection issue with your Wi-Fi. I don't know that there's something going on with. I mean, last time it was great. This time it just seems very bad. It might be the Wi-Fi. It may be your microphone. Do you want to just jump off stage quickly, see if you can sort it out, and then come back on, and then we'll see if it's working again. If that's all right.
Okay.
Appreciate it, Professor. Sebastian, please jump in, and what are your thoughts on the what does responsible innovation look like from your lens, Sebastian? And when humanity is at the center, do you agree with me? Do you agree with Stefania, or do you just have your own opinion?
I think it's a mix of all of yours. Similar to what Stefania was saying, for me it starts at what is the purpose. So what is the purpose of this innovation? And that can be anything, right? It can be, I want to make millions of dollars, and fine, then you embrace that purpose and you go with it. I wouldn't necessarily call that responsible. But talking about responsibility, it's sitting at that intersection of really understanding how this innovation will impact not only humanity, I would say, but also the world, looking at how it impacts our ecosystems, how what will be the long-term impact of this 5 to 10 years down the line. And I think that's not a question that leaders have been asking themselves enough, or often enough, because it's more about the short-term gains, economic gains that they've been pursuing. So it for me, it's about creating intentional spaces, and a space before you jump into saying we can do this, let's do it, is exactly what Stefania was describing. Ask questions, talk to your stakeholders, talk to the people that are going to be impacted by this innovation. And I know that slows things down a little bit, but I think we've been operating at such an incredible speed of innovation that a certain slowing down is not going to necessarily hinder kind of the economic impact that you can have for your company or for your business. So, and having a conversation takes 15 minutes with some good guided questions to gather some input and responses. So I think that idea of a pause and that idea of space is really important when we're looking at responsibility and responsible innovation.
I can tell you this, Sebastian. I think things have anything been going quicker now. I mean, we just had Sora 2 yesterday. We're seeing Nano Banana literally less than a month ago. Thinking about all the new models and everything coming out, things are just getting faster and faster and faster. So as much as I agree with you, Sebastian, does it look like things are mostly going to slow down? By the looks of it, no. If anything, it's going to keep speeding up, and God knows what's going to come out in the next couple of months. Honestly, I was very surprised about Sora 2, and just the incredibleness of the videos and how real it is, and you can't even see the difference between, it's like film level quality, and you can even put yourself, like I can have Sebastian inside that film, right, and make multiple clips of you sync with it, like back to back to back, and I can just it's just, I think it's crazy and kind of what they've done. So if anything, I think it's going the opposite way. So let's kind of jump into the next question now, though, which is, where does mindfulness meet technology in a fast-paced world? So Stefania, we've just spoken about Sora 2 and how things fast are going. So what are your thoughts on this question in particular?
Well, this is one of my favorites, because part of what I do in that intersection is teach mindfulness for leaders. So I've experienced the benefits of mindfulness when working in fast-paced environments, like when I was working for Nokia, which was tech-driven. And what I'm putting that context is because of the following. We usually think that mindfulness means that we are slowing down, and that it can make progress be slow, but it's absolutely the opposite. By going too fast, our brains, and especially now in the moment where there is an excess of content creation, we are saturated, we receive messages through many different channels. This oversaturation doesn't allow us really to process the information mindfully, which at the end of the day, mindfulness, what means is one thing at a time, paying attention of what we have in front of us.
100%.
And that, of course, has an impact on technology, in the sense that if you are doing a mindful design, you are really focused on understanding the customer needs, understanding what is the best way, and even taking a step back before that, thinking if there are any users that we are leaving outside our picture, let's put it this way. So this pause is actually what allows us later to go faster when needed. What we cannot do for innovation is being only go, fast, because we cannot process and we cannot design processes, products, services in that way. And by the way, at the end of the day, this can be worse, but the studies also show that in the working spaces where our mindfulness programs already working, this can reduce the burnout on a 25%, which means people are going to be more productive. And we know that it's always better to have someone inside the company that knows what you are doing rather than keep on hiring new people because the people are burned out and they are leaving. So it is about the intention, taking that pause to be intentional, to understand, to redesign, to recalibrate, and then go as fast as you want and can. But we need those pockets. I call them like the fire cuts, right? That we need. Okay, let's stop. Let's create this world. Let's think. Let's rewire everything that we've learned, and then let's continue. But mindfulness is essential, even more in such a quick world that we live in. I don't know what others think.
No, I agree, and I think like slowing down yourself personally when it comes to a mindful standpoint, I think that's obviously extremely important for sure. But I just think of like the when it comes to your mind with AI and like basically like the changes in what it makes within your brains and your brain cells and everything like that, and when it comes to the science side of your mind, so to speak, we don't really fully comprehend and understand the complications when it comes to the AI aspect of that. And because of that, it's kind of like we can do our stuff and play our role within it, but like what is the tech's role in it, like as in the tech companies, or what is the AI's role within all this too? And we I think we've got to think about basically like our relationship and our interactions with the AI to make sure that we do have mindfulness at the center, like how you're saying, so that we can stop our minds and our brains from changing, so to speak. I don't know what your thoughts on that, Stefania, but I just kind of wanted to add to really what you're saying, really.
Yeah, I don't know if I can share something quick that I was sharing today on LinkedIn. It's a very silly example, but just to make it fast, I was using AI to show how they can propose you outfits. In my case, it was for a workshop for startups, okay? And I was just exaggerating a bit, saying that today I got upset with AI because the pictures and the outfits that was giving me were like an old auntie, okay? But so if in terms of AI, we just get the information, copy, paste, and launch, we are going to fail. Then I took the following example, which was I gave the right information about my vibe, my energy, the image that I want to project, who is the crowd, how is going to be the environment, and then I showed the difference. This is very silly, is AI for personal branding, but if we amplify that, is exactly what you were saying. So those spaces to stop, to think how technology or AI in this case is being used, and then having our brain to slow down, because the machines, what we want the machines is to be more productive, to be faster, which is fantastic. So we need to be the ones that will force the process to slow down and to recalibrate. And of course, having different opinions, but then probably we can discuss that later.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, Stefania, and thank you very much for sharing everything. And it is very interesting, and even some of the comments we're getting as well. Zone Zero, for example, she is saying that mindfulness is so lacking in big tech, and Captain Walker, she's even saying that we should be amplifying humanity. So people are sharing their thoughts there. So Professor, I think we have solved your issue now, I believe, from what I've been told. So let's give you a try once again. Do you want to try and introduce yourself one last time?
Okay. I think you can hear me right now, right? Is it okay?
Oh, this is so much better, Professor. What have you done? It's like magically become like it's like you've waved a wand or something. This is great.
Okay, so thank you. So first of all, I'm from Kolkata, India, and we are celebrating Durga Puja here. So Puja greetings to all of you, all the esteemed panelists, along with Russell to you. So
greetings.
So thank you very much for inviting me to this session. I am working as a professor at NSHM Knowledge Campus, Kolkata. I am in this profession for more than 28 years. And my passion is to make the future generation ready, who will be capable to use AI for the social good. That is my motto that you can tell. Okay, so to address the your second question that you have raised, it's a
yeah,
very
please do share your thoughts, Professor. Yeah, sorry, please do
yes.
share your thoughts.
So first of all, mindfulness is the cause that gives purpose to our progress. This is what I discuss with my students, and then it actually mindfulness gives us, to reminds us something that why we are building, for whom we are building, and definitely with what consequences. So it actually bridges the gap between the speed and sensitivity, two things which are very much crucial nowadays, because as we are introducing technology in our daily lives is becoming much more faster. So definitely there's a gap between the speed and the sensitivity. So
Okay.
that ensures our pursuit of innovation is grounded in the human values. It must have some ethical reasoning and definitely the long-term impact. So by embedding mindfulness reflections into every stage of innovation, from ideation to suppose development, we make sure that technology enhances the human lives, flourish, and definitely is going to support the human lives other than competing with anything. Look, in end of the day, whenever we refer something as a progress into technology, progress due to some sort of revolution, it's only to make human lives better. So until or unless we can make human lives better, we cannot tell that we are progressing. And here, the mindfulness plays a major role, in my opinion.
Well, thank you for sharing, Professor. And there was a couple of issues when you were talking there, but we heard the majority of what you said that time, so it's a lot better. I don't know if it might be your headphones that you might be wearing or something, but there was some technical difficulties there. A bit of intimate, as Christopher was just saying. So yeah, I completely agree with that. And Lynn, welcome to the stage. It's good to have you with us. And now that you're back from your technical difficulties, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody once again?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me back. It's a comeback for me. And yeah, things happen. And I'm ready. And thank you for even the panelists who are here. And I'm grateful to even share this discussion on mindfulness. Yes, thank you.
That was the quickest introduction that I've heard all day, Lynn. But Lynn is also the Director of Communications at GatherVerse as well, and has been a long-term team leader and director with GatherVerse. So, and I'm also Director of Partnerships as well. So she is my fellow colleague and fellow person in crime, so to speak. So on that note, let's get on to the next question, and we're going to have over to you, Sebastian. Don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you, of course. Which is, the question is, how do empathy and mindfulness contribute to responsible innovation? So you heard myself and Stefania speaking, Sebastian. So again, please share us your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the empathy and mindfulness working together is what really creates the conditions where our human needs can emerge and be understood. So I think that empathy without mindfulness really is more performative in a way. If you're not able to be present in the moment, sitting with the person you're speaking to, or with the constituency that you're with and the stakeholders, and you're able to really kind of gather their input and understand their perspective, it's just performance. So I think that that mindfulness is really, really crucial, and that leads to the responsible innovation. I think that without being able to understand others and understand their experiences and be able to step into their shoes, we're not going to be able to innovate responsibly. And I think mindfulness plays a crucial role in that.
Do you think that's also, Sebastian, before you mute your microphone, do you also believe that is also empathy too?
Yeah, I think that empathy is crucial. Like when it comes to responsible innovation, Responsibility for me means that I like this idea of you're able to respond instead of, I think a lot of people are stuck in this reactive mode. As you were saying, Russell, very early on, we're not going to be able to change the pace of innovation of these companies.
Correct.
It's going to go faster and faster, and that's fine, and that's something we can accept, or we have to. But what we can control is our response to it, and that's, I think, where the responsibility is as well. The ability to respond. I love that someone reframed that for me a long time ago. You have the ability to respond and not be reactive. And that's where mindfulness and empathy really plays that kind of crucial role in sitting together, taking a moment, being present, as Professor was saying, understand what, who, and why, and then you're able to move forward and innovate responsibly.
No, I completely agree, Sebastian. And you can. There's only a certain amount of things you can control personally yourself. Anything outside of your control, you have no control over that. So, completely agree with you on that. And Lynn, let's get your thoughts, because I'm very interested to get you involved, which is when it comes to empathy and mindfulness and responsible innovation. You've seen multiple GatherVerse events, you've been on multiple roundtables, speaking about mindfulness and stuff. So what is your personal opinion on all this, Lynn?
Yeah, when it comes to empathy, for me, I always think that empathy is the principal thing when it comes to innovation. And I totally believe if you want to innovate for yourself, this is for yourself. You have to be empathetic with yourself. What do I want? For example, if it's Russell, what do I want with this product? It's for me.
Mm-hmm.
You're empathetic with yourself. Now, let's think when it comes to the whole public or globally. What does the public want to hear? What do they want? Do they need what I'm innovating? So for me, if you can be empathetic on yourself, that means you can also be empathetic with the people you're innovating for. And it's my encouragement for all innovators. And I have seen the leaders who come here at GatherVerse, including the ones we have here, and all the startups founders and the business leaders. All of them have one thing in common, and it's empathy. So it's us sharing out as the GatherVerse community, telling the world, hey, empathy is the principal thing to innovate when it comes to the humanity first approach. And that is what brings along mindfulness and responsibility. So I think it's a twin combination, or it's a cousin. This is a cousin's affair. Empathy, mindfulness, and responsibility. This is a cousin's affair, and they go hand in hand.
I agree so much there. And Lynn, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. And it also makes me think, when it comes to human values, when it comes to humanity itself, and it also goes back to the first question which we had, which was about humanity being at the center of innovation. So at the end of the day, humanity is the one that technically is building AI. So humanity also has a responsibility to innovate that too. So let's go on to the next question, which is, and before we do that, actually, Zone Zero, she mentions the ability to respond and not be reactive, which she was saying about how we were speaking about earlier. And Salvation says, such an insightful panel. I completely agree, Salvation. So thank you for your comments there. So the next question is, how can empathy be measured within innovation practices? So this goes back to the first panel that we had earlier as well, when we're talking about benchmarks and standards, etc. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Stefania, and then also, Professor, we'll try your audio once again and see if it is working. So Stefania, over to you. How can empathy be measured within innovation practices?
Okay. I'll reply to that, making a bit of a turn, but
Sure.
It will come back as a circle. Okay.
Sure, no problem.
So when you were talking, and I think it was Sebastian who was talking about, yes, it was Sebastian, who was talking about that mindfulness increases empathy. I don't know if it was with these words, but it was on that line. When we talk about emotional intelligence, obviously the self-knowledge and knowing about ourselves is the first step. And that
Right.
comes through being very present, slowing down, listening to ourselves.
Yes.
So we can only achieve that empathy if we are able first to know ourselves and to slow down and to have the time really to listen the others. Now, second part of the circle.
Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
seatbelted in here. I'm seatbelted in. So I'm ready to go.
Sometimes what happens is when people listen about mindfulness, empathy, emotional intelligence, they say, yes, but that doesn't work with CEOs, that doesn't work with leaders, because at the end of the day, we want to be productive. Okay, then ask Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, why he's practicing mindfulness. Ask Adriana Huffington, which is the CEO of the Huffington Post, why she's practicing mindfulness. Ask Steve Jobs. Well, sorry, we cannot ask him. But Steve Jobs was also a practitioner of mindfulness. And there are so many other examples that we can jump to understand that people in tech themselves are practicing mindfulness.
Yeah.
And that makes them a more conscious leaders, which leads to empathy. Now, how do we measure that? It comes back to the leaders. You wouldn't be able to measure that if the leaders inside an organization are not really committed with emotional intelligence, with empathy, with inclusion, with diversity being some of the KPIs. Now,
right.
Empathy right now, I don't think they have found a way to measure how high or low we are on empathy rather than different questionnaires. But
Okay.
if we measure it in a different angle, like if the product is equally usable, safe, and respectful for every different group of customers, then we can measure the empathy in a different way in innovation, because it is true that at the end of the day, they need numbers. For example, in the mindfulness or emotional intelligence workshops that many of us deliver, they click, the leaders, the CEOs, the managers, they click really with it when they see the numbers, and they can understand how the teams perform higher when XYZ happens. So with innovation and empathy needs to be the same, and in a way of doing that is understanding that empathy can be part of the strategy and linking it to diversity, inclusion, and making sure that any product and service is really safe and is very usable from each of the different groups, segments, call it whatever, depending on which department of the company you are at.
No,
So that was the full circle to
that was fantastic, full circle. I really like that. It was a big roundabout, that one, but it was a great roundabout. So but no, honestly, I think I think you have a very good point. And also it could be just as simple as a feature that you add, right? That's just all about mindfulness. It could be just a certain section on the website. It can also be a specific app created internally within the organization itself that you can use to measure mindfulness, so to speak. So there's a lot of ways in which you can do that for sure, Stefania, and I completely agree with 100% what you're saying. So thank you for sharing that. And Professor, let's see if your audio is good now. So we'll try once again. What are your thoughts on how can empathy be measured within innovation practices?
Okay. Thank you, Russell, for the great question. I'm sure now my audio is okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Yes. So look, while we are judging the empathy, that is basically qualitative in nature. All of us we know, although now a few parameters came to judge in quantify, but then generally it's a qualitative measure. But then it can be measured through impact indicators and the participatory feedback loops. So for your empathy, what are the impacts that you have? We can have certain indicators, and then who are participating from their feedback loops. So I'll give you an example. For example,
okay,
we can assess how well a product addresses user pain points, the inclusiveness of the design process, the diversity of the voices involved, or the emotional satisfaction reported by the users.
Okay.
So definitely,
So feedback.
when you are selling a product, definitely you can take all those,
Yeah.
and then you can have a regular engagement with the end user, the co-creation sessions you can have, and then you can have some studies to measure the empathy. So not just it's a feeling, but it's a tangible outcome, I think, which reflects how well a solution, maybe a product or even maybe a service, it's going to resonate with those it serves. This is in my opinion, whatever I think, that how can you connect empathy with innovation practices.
No, it's interesting. Like for sure, I agree that feedback is extremely important. It's a great way to be able to measure that. You could look for certain keywords. You can look for just how many people are that you know how you get like the smiley face things. One that's really sort of happy and then one that's really sad. There's great ways in which to be able to measure it. So I completely agree with you, Professor. And Lynn, let's bring you into this discussion because we spoke about empathy, we spoke about mindfulness, we spoke about humanity being at the center. How do we balance ambition, speed, and competition with care for people and the planet? Because as a very good co-founder of mine at Just Verify says that two things can be true at the same time. One is safety and one is innovation. So what are your thoughts, Lynn?
This is an interesting question, and it's something every leader has to really sit down and think about it. And every person who is working towards an innovation or something, there's need for speed, definitely. You can't afford to slow down in this era of AI. True. And of course, there's need for care. And then there's ambition. There's that part where I also need to raise $1 million like my fellow competitor. There's that ambition, right? So how do you balance that with care? I believe if your foundation from the word go was the care for humanity, balancing with all this ambition and speed wouldn't be the hardest task. But if your foundation, your reason, your why, there's so many people who ask, what was your why? Why did you do this? Why did you start here? But if your why was to beat your competitor, your why was to raise this amount of money and exceed it, your why was to be the fastest, then you will lose the intention for care and people and, of course, the planet. I come to think of that way. Your foundation. What is your foundation? Why did you do this? So if your foundation is right, your speed will also be right, and your ambition will also be right. And I also believe that in this era of speed, sometimes slowing down is also a great way to go in speed. Here in Kenya, there's a saying in Swahili, you might know the direction and you might not have the speed, but you're on the right track. You have the direction, you have the speed, you're still on the right track. But if you go with speed and you don't know the direction, you are far away astray. So
completely agree.
Yeah, so as long as you have your guiding compass as humanity, I'm good with you, and that is a perfect balance.
Agreed. And starts with the foundation, structure, how like ambition, of course you got to have ambition personally yourself. Speed, well, you have to do that anyway. And competition, of course, competition is going to make you faster and speed, so to speak, because we live in the capitalist world, so to speak. So and when it comes to humanity and human center, within all of this, it's kind of like, okay, how do we still have the human values at the center of all this and making sure that we're still having all this aligned whilst doing ambition, speed, competition, care, people, planet, like, everything, right? There's just so much that you have to take into account. And it's just a balancing act with all that. So Gabriel just has joined us. So welcome, Gabriel. Great to have
Hi
you with us.
everyone. Apologies for coming in late. I've been listening halfway through the conversation, and it's been great to hear your contributions.
And please, share your thoughts as well. We're just going to bring you straight in. You know, how do you balance speed, ambition, competition, and how do you handle that with the care and the people and the planet and humanity, so to speak?
I think humanity comes first. For me, it's the people, and maybe Lynn will align with me more on this because we have been brought up with communities, so we always work within a group. It's either through your family, through your your lineage, through your community. There's always a link to somebody, to something, so that we grow in those eccentric circles. So for me, working with Esports Africa News has always been with people on the continent and the diaspora Africans, and it's always identifying either through country, through language, through culture, through food. Typically, Ghana, Nigeria, I've got the best banter. If it's not jollof rice, it's music. If it's not music, it's football. So we've got something going. That kind of thing. And I'm sure Uganda, Rwanda, and Kenya have got something going. So there's always some connection, and that's how we balance ambition with humanity. Because irrespective of competition or media or whatever we do, Africa comes first. And Africa is not just a big mass, it's made up of 54 dynamic, creative, special. They're very different people, but yet one very big group. So it's super exciting working in Africa, for that matter. And talking about speed is relative, and I think I go with what Lynn again said, maybe because we're both from the same region, but speed is relative. It's either you're going fast alone or you're going big together, so whichever way we go with it, we grow with the community. We are more inclined to grow big with the community than one person going very fast. I think what we've got in Ghana is if it's one tree does not make a forest, that kind of thing. Literal translation: one tree does not make a forest. And if you're a single person, a single tree standing out there, you're more likely to get cut down by the wood hunter, because you are the best person, you're the best tree out there. So yeah, for us, community is big in everything we do, rather than speed.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts as well, Gabriel, and thank you for joining us. And I think all of that applies within the Middle East too, as well, for sure. When it comes to community, when it comes to humanity, when it comes to everything that you just mentioned there, Gabriel. So I appreciate you joining us. And even though you are late, it's all good. Double thumbs up on that side. Professor, we'll come over to you very shortly because I've got to jump around a few more questions, and we've got about literally 8 minutes left. So I want to get some more questions. Actually, we've got less than that now. We've got 5 minutes. So the next question is, how can innovators measure the social and emotional impact of the work? Also, Salvation mentioned, by the way, this is just a quick comment. Salvation said, Gabriel, you got it. And Captain Walker, she says, speed without direction is meaningless. Speed with direction is critical. So thank you for sharing your thoughts over there. So the question is, how can innovators measure the social and emotional impact of the work? Obviously, we've had some measurements that we've shared from Professor, etc. But Stefania, what are your thoughts?
I'll reply to this one quick, without roundabouts. By asking better questions, or by asking different questions. Moving beyond the question of how satisfied are we with the product that you just used, asking more well-being related questions. For example, does the usage of this product increase or reduce your anxiety? Do you feel after buying this service that you want to compare yourself more with others or less? I'm thinking, for example, now on social media, on Instagram. If we were thinking on those well-being questions, we would be more mindful on the type of innovation that we bring on the plate. So it's not just about customers are satisfied or not. Is Do you feel better with yourself? Are you aligned? Are you proud with the values that you represent when you are using our service? Are you proud of the impact that you are having on the planet when you consume this product? So I would link it definitely to different questions or more questions, and those would be really linked to the well-being, the impact that consuming that product or service has on your well-being.
No, I do agree, and I think questions are crucial, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're in the AI age, so to speak, that's how I call it anyway. Everyone calls it different terms, but in the AI age, they say that you have to remain curious, right? So being curious means asking questions. Asking questions means obviously you can then measure the emotional impact, and then obviously asking the right emotional questions, so to speak, then you can find out what's going on. So I completely agree with you, Stefania. And I'm afraid we literally ran out of time. So what I'm going to do is, because I want to get everyone's input in on this last final question. So this is not a question on the actual deck itself. This is more kind of just my own question that I'm coming up with. So in the age of AI and the innovation, obviously there's so many human values, right, when it comes to the innovation. So I would like for each of you to pick out one of the most important things within human values that you want to see going into the future of the AI age. So we'll start off with you, Stefania, if that's all right. Then we'll go to Professor, Gabriel, Sebastian, and Lynn. So I can only pick one word, so pick very wisely before you jump in. One word of what you want to see with human values in the AI age of innovation. So over to you, Stefania.
One word, inclusion.
One word.
Inclusion
Okay.
in innovation.
That's 2 words, but that's fine. Professor, what are your thoughts? One word. And you need to unmute your microphone, please. You've got one word, Professor. One word and unmute your microphone, please. One word of what you're most hopeful for in the AI age of innovation. Like which one human value would you like to see, basically?
In my opinion, it would be sustainability.
Sustainability. Okay. Yes. That's a very good answer. Gabriel, same question for yourself. And unmute your microphone, please.
Empathy.
Empathy. Great. Sebastian, yourself, one word.
Diversity.
Diversity. And Lynn, which is your one word?
Education.
Education. And on that note, we have to finish things up. So I'm afraid that's it for the GatherVerse Middle East for Tech Humanity Summit Day 2.
Wait. Russell, what's your word?
Yeah.
You can't get away from it.
That's great.
Why did you have to jump on, Christopher? Why? My one word is trust. Okay. On that note, that is it from us, and thank you for joining us on this last roundtable discussion for Day 2 of the GatherVerse Middle East Tech for Humanity Summit. It's been a fantastic roundtable. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to Lynn. Thank you to the team. It's been a pleasure having you all. And make sure you follow everyone on this panel on LinkedIn as well, by the way, because that's one thing I always do. Make sure you connect, link up with each other, talk to each other, etc. And on that note, our Gather was well. So GatherVerse team, over to you. And Christopher will be up next for closing us out. So see you later.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Happy.
I wanted to listen. I wanted to hear. I wanted to see. I was always taught 2 ears, 1 mouth. What an extraordinary, rather fascinating GatherVerse Tech for Humanity series, Middle East. Empathy, education, access, care, compassion, trust. These are the things that we want today and tomorrow when it comes to technology. We heard people say equality, diversity, diverse perspective. I would say the theme of this course of 2 days of expression undoubtedly is culture. You know, Simon Sinek said, people don't buy products and services, they buy culture. When I think about this opportunity for us to be more connected than ever before, intimately, what it really translates is ecoculture, these human characteristics that are permeated in and throughout technological ecosystems. But that's precisely the word, human. Right now, we're on the dawn of the precipice of a new culture that's arriving. It does not have a heartbeat, and it doesn't have the course of blood flowing through its veins, pumping, distributing through its arteries. It's synthetic. It's a machine. It's the ingestion, and as Russell said, there's over 1,800,000 of these models that we know of. We are in an unprecedented time where the culture of machines are mingling and commingling with human culture. We're at a time where our colleagues and our friends, family, our next door neighbors will deploy and distribute information to us that may not be of their own. Sure, we can say in times past, before these models were deployed, we were seeking information for different publications and different types of literary works and points of reference. There's a PDF or a framework or a manifesto, perhaps a comment on a thread. But the level of intelligentsia that's permeated in the ecosystem of our information diet has changed. I remember 2 years ago, we talked about the threat of misinformation and disinformation and the whole entire ecosystem of information itself and what that would mean for humanity, for education, for academics, for scholarly development. That if we could just mad dash and prevent that from happening with these models and going too far, too fast, too quick, that ship has sailed. If you had the desire to be able to prevent misinformation and disinformation, there's no undoing that. There's no coming back from that. With these extraordinarily powerful transformers, these generative pre-trained transformers or foundational models, small and large, the shipment of the type of information, open source or closed environments, and now with what we see happening with these diffusion adversarial networks based video deployment, the ability to be able to create the image of a man, of a woman, with perfect voice pairing rendering in small bite-sized segments will one day become large segments and will one day become real-time Kodak interactive. And as you see me, and as I've seen each and every heart that has spoken yesterday, today, and through our 33 Global Plus GatherVerse Summits, we're heading into an era where we will not be able to discern human from machine. So what do we say then? You're not going to change the hyperscale and this level of innovation. But what you can do is begin to prepare and fortify your own self, your own communities, your own heart for trustworthy access. If you are going to ship or send, receive, or post or deliver any type of information to me, I want it vetted and encapsulated in trust with a ground truth and a filter. We now have to start thinking about the reliability of information. And as the founder of GatherVerse, I think about and I listen intently to everything that each of you has said. At GatherVerse.live, we have people that are sitting here right now. We see you. And there are quite many of you. And even on our various social streams, you come in and out and you hear, you listen, you take this information for what it is, whether it's applicable to your life or to your communities. We hear you, we see you. And the reality is the information that comes from our platforms must be vetted, tried, tested. I don't believe everything that I see in LinkedIn, not that I ever did. But now it's more of an illusory environment. A deluge of content that is machine manifest and not human. Can I trust it? Can I trust you? GatherVerse is one of the last remaining platforms in the world that operates at this level of human compassion expression and the preservation of human expression. And this is where we stand. This is the track. And we're working diligently to make sure that we put in trust and verifiable systems to make sure that the information that you get is human derived. Your data is important. Your expressions are important. The information that you get should be as equally important, and to the integrity of it all. Come as you are, come what you may. But your culture can never be duplicated by a machine. Your human culture, that which you've had all your lives, if you will, it is imperfect as it seems. As much as we want to go to a model that seems to be perfect, your imperfection is always more perfect than the perfect of what any machine can produce and deploy. I would take your human imperfection over machine perfection. The authenticity of the heartbeat of the human code, genetics, the decisions you make, the things you like, the way you see it, the way you sound. That is procreation at its finest on this earth. These are very serious words. I am mindful as I listen to all the different continents that we listen and that we hear on. As Lynn pointed out, there are billions of people that don't even have the option to even tune into a GatherVerse, and even so much as even heard of a GatherVerse because they do not have connectivity, they do not have access, they do not have broadband, and it is more important than ever for us to be connected for peer expression, or we are subjected to whatever algorithm will tell us what it is that it thinks that we should know. But this is not the way. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor that GatherVerse exists. And know for all of you that are with us, you are not alone. You have been well heard and will continue to be heard. This is part of our duty. This is part of our mission, to be able to scale expression in a world that is scaling machines. And for every machine and every new model deployed in the world, I hope that we have a voice to complement it tenfold. The Middle East, we've heard you and you've heard us. We've seen you and you've seen us. We are with you. not apart, not separate, always together, building, scaling, clamoring for common cause, compassion, care, empathy. These are the nexus, and these are the beginnings of innovation. And without these, without this foundation, we are building atop sand, and there's no people in the world that understand the importance of structural foundation, or what it's like to build on sand or to build on a foundation that can hold than the good people of the Middle East. Peace to Palestine. Settle this war. Heal these hearts. And let these children be. Our gather was well. And next week, we head to Europe to explore what's happening throughout these several different countries. In the UK, the Innovative Front, the land of safety and trust, universal verification. We see you, Europe. We are headed your way, not as a storm, but as a unified collective heart. Thank you for joining us at GatherVerse Tech for Humanity Summit, Middle East, Day 2. Our gather. And when we meet each other again, together, may our gather be well.
Children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun. Well, I got one foot on the platform. to wear that ball and chain. Well, there is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know